Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be discussing how to make video for mobile, specifically for pharma and healthcare audiences. In previous talks, we've had great success exploring topics from a variety of perspectives, and that's what we want to do again today. We'll be approaching this topic from the perspective of an account person, content person, and a video person. I'm Mark Melchok. As the account person today, my goal is to give real-world examples from projects with our clients and how they've successfully navigated those challenges with us. I'll be bringing the strategic vision and real-life experiences we've shared with our pharma and healthcare clients to this conversation.
Hi, I'm Mark Roshan. As the content guy, it's my team's responsibility to become subject matter experts in our clients' products or services, to question their processes, to delve into their materials, to research how they can do better, and, of course, create compelling and engaging content. I like to think of what we do as the bridge. So today, I will be providing a perspective that's informed by both the client and production worlds when creating video content for mobile.
Hi, I'm Dave Less. As the video guy, my role is to lead the video team in bringing everything together in the form of a great video that engages your audience and delivers on your strategic goals. I'll be discussing how to translate your messaging into a creative vision, and then how you can hone that concept specifically to the unique production aesthetics of mobile video.
So, a few housekeeping and background notes first. Like many of you, we are working on projects for heavily regulated industries. So many of the examples we'll be discussing will unfortunately be a little vague in the details of the project, but very specific in the creative and tech used and the research we've performed. When possible, we'll delve as deep as our clients will allow in the pharma and healthcare examples, and where we can't talk about something, we'll give examples from similar projects, but from other non-regulated industries. They're typically very similar in the delivery challenges, research, and strategy, but we can actually talk about them and show to you all. So, at the end, we'll have time for a live Q&A, and for those of you who are watching later, we'll have a way you can reach out to Brella with any additional questions you may have. So, after all of that, what are we discussing today? Well, Brella is a strategic production company with a strong focus on pharma and healthcare. For over 25 years, we've worked with our clients to create engaging and targeted communications using the most effective tools available at the time. Today, one of the strongest tools for communicating with your customers and employees is video on mobile devices. But you just can't grab a video you've already produced and send it out to the world and expect it to be as effective as you want. So let's get started with Dave, and we'll talk about respecting the audience experience.
So I'm sure that all of you watching this webinar know that one of the most basic rules of marketing is to know your audience. Know who they are, know what delights them, know what message is going to get through to them. The thing that we need to consider specifically and uniquely to mobile video marketing is understanding, and the word I like to use is respecting your audience's experience. What do I mean by that? I had a very specific moment where this lesson was taught to me about respecting your audience's experience, and it happened at 3 a.m. in an edit suite in downtown Chicago when I was working on as an editor on a reality TV show for the History Channel, working with a producer who had flown in from LA. It was 3 a.m. I was getting really frustrated with him because he kept asking me to reset the characters and their stakes. Who are these characters? What are they trying to achieve? What are their obstacles? What are the stakes if they succeed or fail? And I finally turned around to him and said, look, can't we give our audience a little bit more respect? Not everyone who watches television is dumb. They can follow these storylines and these characters without having to constantly remind them. And being an older and more experienced person in the field than me, he said, you're right. You're right about the need to respect our audience, but you're wrong about the way in which you're respecting them. We're in this room here and we're 100% focused on this TV show. We have no distractions. Our attention is completely on it. That's not how our audience is going to view the show. They're going to be watching this at home on their television. They might be doing other things at the same time. They might be folding their laundry. They might be having a side conversation with their spouse. They might be playing with their kids. They might be eating dinner. Any of those things could distract them for 15, 20, 30 seconds. And we need to make sure that when they look back up and continue to watch the show, that within 15 to 30 seconds, they are re-engaged and understanding what's happening, or they're going to take the remote control and they're going to flip it. And they have that power We can't control that. So we need to make sure that we respect what they're going through so that we keep their attention and re-engage them. And that lesson is exponentially more relevant to mobile video even than to television was, because the amount of distractions that you have with mobile are exponentially greater. You might be watching a mobile video on your phone on your commute home on a train. You might have push notifications and emails popping up over top of it. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So it's really important that we understand and respect the audience experience. So the great thing about mobile is that people carry these little screens in their pockets all the time. And we have unprecedented access to being able to deliver content. But at the same time, the double-edged sword is we have zero control over what their viewing experience is going to be. So we have to consider, how do we craft our message? How do we make our video differently? How do we produce it differently to take this different medium into account? But before we go into that, let's step back for a moment and talk about why you need to care about mobile video, why it is so important today.
Why leverage mobile video, especially for those of you in the pharma and healthcare industries? We believe mobile video is the best delivery device for getting your message across, specifically because it does not fit the typical models of communication by the pharma and healthcare industry. It is not at a trade show or on TV, print, or the radio. It's not a brochure in a doctor's office. The information viewed is being discovered by the HCP or patient themselves, and so they trust it more than if it's being provided to them by a faceless corporation. And in some cases, as we'll discuss, it is actually presented by someone they trust, a physician or even another patient. So first, we need to go back to something Dave mentioned earlier: know your audience. And in this case, how HCPs and patients use mobile devices and mobile video.
I'd like to start off with some interesting statistics that speak to the rise of mobile video usage. This first stat comes from a Cisco survey on global video traffic. In 2015, mobile video traffic accounted for 55% of all mobile data traffic. 46% of all video plays in the fourth quarter of 2015 were on smartphones or tablets. Now consider this IAB survey that found that 68% of people share the videos they watch on their smartphones. In a 2015 survey of US smartphone usage, they found that 62% of smartphone owners have used their phone in the past year to look up information about a health condition. Secondly, the recently released Pharma 3D report stated that 50% of primary care physicians share information from online videos with patients. Think about those statistics for a moment. We believe they speak to an underlying desire for credible medical information on the part of both physicians and patients. Both of these groups are also looking for this information in a format that is easy for them to watch and share.
And it actually plays to some of the projects that we've been producing recently with our clients. The holy grail for our pharma and healthcare clients is to get their video watched by HCPs and patients, but the challenge is getting a warm reception to the videos in the first place. Imagine if you can have someone a patient trusts being the champion for your content. Wouldn't that make it easier to form a relationship of trust between you, your product or service, and the patient you're trying to serve? So, how do you do this? One really successful and popular way is through unbranded websites and unbranded video clips. We found that video that is presented on an educational versus corporate website is seen as more authentic and believable by viewers. And even more successful is partnering with a patient association so that they can be the face of the content and lend patient legitimacy to the message you're trying to deliver. Patients are likely going to these association websites anyway, and if you have compelling content you're providing, it will make the site stickier and provide a delivery vehicle that is better than anything else out there. Some really successful examples of unbranded content we've produced include everything from patient journey stories that are like mini documentaries, conversations between KOLs or KOLs and patients discussing treatments, to documenting and sharing patient community building events like support groups, bike rides, sponsored walks, and even marathons. These pieces not only get the message out from a PR perspective about the disease or condition, but they also show your company's commitment to the patient community you support through a variety of social media outlets. Now, I know that for many of you in the pharma and healthcare industry, social media is usually seen as a bad thing because you feel like you lose control of the message. But if you have great pre-produced patient videos or testimonials that tell their story in their own words from a place of authenticity, you still have control of the message. What you lose control of is distribution. But if a video goes viral and is seen by millions, is that really such a bad thing?
Not only can mobile video be a great tool for educating patients, it can be an important source of information for physicians as well. Consider this survey that found about 58% of doctors spend between 1 and 5 hours per week finding medical information online, while 56% spend between 1 and 5 hours on ongoing medical training. While I'm currently working as a copywriter, I started out doing training and instructional design work, which continues to inform my writing. I'm always looking for the most effective way for my audience to pay attention and remember the content I'm promoting. So from that standpoint, creating content for a mobile video format makes a ton of sense. With this format, you have a chance to connect with HCPs in a way that doesn't come across like a sales pitch, or like they're being trained on something they're not interested in. This significantly reduces the mental barriers that physicians can put up when they feel like they're being taught something. When HCPs and also patients are the instigators of the search for knowledge, they tend to be more receptive and retain the information longer. The same Pharma 3D survey also reported that 46% of doctors say they share videos they found online about treatment topics with other healthcare providers.
So not only are HCPs sharing video with the patients you want to reach, but also 46% are helping your sales reps sell your products and services by reaching out to their peers to share your message, assuming, of course, that you're providing content for them to share, highlighting why you should leverage mobile video. An example that reinforces this from one of our clients is the growth of tablet-based sales tools versus print materials. Not only do these sales tools allow you to customize the presentation to the HCP, remember what you as a rep have presented in the past, what the HCP has responded positively to at your last meeting, but it also allows you to show them more engaging content that is more effective. Typically, this content is video. It is always more effective to watch an expert explain something versus being told it by a sales rep. Because by their very title, sales rep, the HCP believes that anything they say is related to getting a sale. If instead the rep shares content from external experts, they're seen as partners. Be it a video clip of a KOL the HCP knows and trusts, or a scientist who is explaining how they discovered or produced your product or device, or better still, a patient who has lived through the symptoms and diagnosis of their disease or condition, and now, through the use of your product or treatment, are able to return to a normal life. These mobile video clips your reps share are seen as expert testimony. And by sharing this information versus going for the sale, your reps are now trusted allies and partners. And going back to Mark's data about HCPs sharing video with their peers, these video clips rarely stay on the reps' devices. Most of our clients are encouraging reps through the tablet tool training they take to offer to send links of the clips to the HCPs they meet with. And even when an HCP cannot meet with them, the first thing a rep is taught to do is go back to their car, email the HCP, and share the video clip they were going to watch together. And what do 46% of the HCPs who receive and watch the video clip do? They share it with a peer, effectively doubling your sales force. So, as everyone is beginning to think mobile first, we also now need to change how we shoot things for small devices. What that means from an aesthetic and content standpoint.
All right, so let's get into some of the aesthetic and production considerations that you need to keep in mind when you're making content for mobile. Just like when we moved from big screen movie theaters to television, you have to change your cinematography a little bit. Television is much more of a close-up medium, and obviously with mobile screens being so small, that's even more pronounced. But that doesn't mean that you need to completely abandon your creative cinematography. You can still use wide shots, but you need to make sure that you're not losing important details in those wide shots. And sort of a fun example that I like to use to illustrate this is this very famous scene from Lawrence of Arabia where we meet Omar Sharif for the first time. He's appearing from a distance in the desert. And in this first shot, it's the first time you see the detail that he actually has a rifle in his hand. And you can see that Peter O'Toole has a reaction to this. If you're watching the same scene, though, on your phone, when Omar Sharif comes riding out of the desert, you can't see enough detail to pick up on this subtle fact that he has a gun with him. So when Peter O'Toole has his reaction and backs away, you really don't know why. So you're losing information there. The point here is don't abandon creative cinematography, but if you are going to use wider shots on mobile, make sure you're not losing details that are really vital to your message and that are going to dilute it if they're not conveyed. The next thing we need to think about is graphics and texts and how they are impacted by mobile, because they are even more problematic. Here's an example of actually a pretty nice PowerPoint. They've put some time into this and adding some color and some shapes and some icons, but there's still a ton of text. So while it might be okay for desktop, if you look at it here on your mobile device, you're just not going to be able to read it. It is unintelligible. It's useless. So how do you account for graphics and text in mobile? The simple answer is try to use as little text as possible. If you are going to use text, make it big, use just a couple words so that you always know people can read it. And for your graphics, try to use simple, bold designs that are really going to pop out and not get caught up in a lot of fine detail. A kind of good example of this is a whiteboard video we did for a financial company. And you can see here, the words are just single words. We're using a lot of images. And then we move on to here, making the point, hey, make sure you have enough money in your savings account. And we're conveying that completely through the visuals. So another thing to consider with cinematography and graphics and animation is what can we do with the mobile medium that's unique to it, that can really make your work stand out? Everybody is very used to side swiping. Everyone's used to images moving horizontally. So here's an example of a video we made for an insurance company that is actually using a side scrolling effect to move the story forward instead of using traditional cuts and keeping the frame static. And because it's mobile, people are very used to seeing that side scrolling. They can follow it, they understand it, and it's making a video that is unique to the aesthetics of mobile, which will really make it stand out and make it really effective. Another thing that we have to consider with mobile video is the use of audio. I'm sure some of you have had the annoying experience of going to a website, having a video autoplay with the audio on, and how annoying that can be, especially if you're at work or something like that. So a lot of people with their mobile devices, they have the audio permanently muted, or maybe they're listening on headphones, but they're on the train and they can't hear that well, or there are other audio distractions just like there are visual distractions. So we like to recommend using something that we call the John Ford rule, the famous filmmaker who once said, "You should be able to understand my movies with the sound off. Everything is conveyed visually." A great example of how prevalent this has become is these videos that are on sidebars and YouTube on CNN, where they are literally dispensing with voiceover completely and making the videos completely out of visuals and on-screen text, and just putting some music under it, just making the absolute assumption that you're probably not listening to this with the audio on. An example now that I'd like to show you that was for a pharma client where we did need voiceover because there was detail that they wanted to include, but to use this John Ford rule and to make sure if by some chance someone isn't listening to the audio, we're making sure that we're reinforcing the important points with simple on-screen text. So here we're talking about their supply chain. We bring up text that says robust supply chain. So again, even if you're not getting every detail, you're still getting the message. Part of what made mobile video really take off was YouTube. And what made YouTube really take off was user-generated content. And specifically, one that I want to talk about here are user reviews. The most watched videos on YouTube are not a manufacturer's video about their product or an expert talking about their product. They are real people giving their real, honest, sort of unfiltered, homemade opinions about things. And these are the things that really get tons and tons of views. This is a video of some of the top 10 tech reviewers on YouTube for 2016. And there are a couple things you're going to notice from these very short clips. The first thing is direct address. Everyone is talking directly to the camera, just like I'm talking directly to the camera to you now. And what that creates is a couple things. First, it's a sense of authenticity. I am not hiding anything. I don't have a crew around me who's interviewing me. I'm just talking directly to you. That also creates greater engagement because you are talking one-on-one and you are getting a more direct connection. And that's more important on a small screen where you have all of these other distractions and you want to make sure, hey, if I can make eye contact with someone, they're going to stay more engaged from those distractions than if I am looking off screen like this, like a traditional interview might be. This is going to engage you more. The other thing that comes across in those clips is a sense of humor and a sense of playfulness. Everyone is being themselves and they're not being heavily produced. So you want to consider that in your marketing is maybe the best choice is not to have experts. Maybe the best choice is not to have something that's really slickly produced, but something that more fits this genre where you're making sure that you come off as authentic. You're maybe using patients instead of KOLs or doctors. You're talking to the real people and getting their real honest opinion. And that is especially important in mobile. So a last example here is for a financial client where you can see some of these elements. Bold design, playful design here where we have the end of the question mark turning into a truck. We have very simple text that has some playful misspellings to it. Everything that's being conveyed is being conveyed visually, again, with just these little bits of text on screen. So it's all very understandable. We bring in these flying saucers at the end. It's humorous. And this was actually a video about financial literacy, about making sure that you have an emergency fund. So the other great thing about mobile is it can be a way to get people to engage in topics that otherwise intimidate them, because you can make things in this style that are more invitational, that are more friendly, that are more authentic, and you get people to engage who otherwise might be intimidated by those things. And that definitely applies to when you're talking about medical or pharma issues as well. So these are all things to consider when you're making your video for mobile distribution.
We want to talk a little bit more about authenticity from a content standpoint. I'll start with this quote. People are looking for authentic experiences, conversations, and interactions with brands. When they don't get them, they go elsewhere for health solutions.
This quote is a cautionary message for all of us, and a way to begin what we believe is an important conversation about content. How much of your content is authentic? Does it spark conversations and interactions with your HCPs or even patients? The best example I've experienced was at an event a few years ago we were producing for one of our pharma clients. We'd been doing this event for almost a decade, and at one of the main plenaries, I had a major aha moment that changed the direction of a lot of the video pieces we've produced since then. The main senior leadership had just finished their opening session using flashy PowerPoint and keynote slide decks, a big opening experience we'd created for them with high-res video on a 60-foot wide screen with live performers, haze, and massive lighting and sound, as well as a ton of really beautiful and highly produced video from very expensive external agencies from around the world. We all were feeling really good about the reaction from this global audience and how well all of the elements had come together. All the attendees were talking about how great it was and how much they got out of it during the break. Following the break was a presentation by a small, brand new indication. That team did not have a lot of slick, pre-produced video as nothing much existed. But they got up to present and started with what they could find, which was a series of personal messages by patients on YouTube. Crappy looking video with horrible sound and lighting. But the patients were speaking from their hearts about their symptoms and lives. 10 minutes went by watching this video where you could have heard a pin drop in the audience. And at the end, a huge response from the audience that blew away the response to all of the slickly produced traditional video messaging that had happened before, because it was authentic and straight from the patient's heart. I learned a valuable lesson that day on the importance and power of real patient stories.
Building on what Mark said, I think a big part of creating these sincere patient testimonials is allowing and encouraging patients to tell the little stories. By little stories, I mean the stories that might not speak directly to the subject at hand, but reveal more about the patient as a person and what they're going through. Those are the kinds of moments I encourage clients to keep in a video. Because as viewers, we remember those details, and in turn, that person in the video becomes more real to us.
Absolutely. And after that experience of patients sharing their little stories with the audience, it changed the direction of a lot of the video we produce. We focus on patient stories, storytelling from the point of view of the patient and in their own words, showing what their lives are like and how they deal with their disease, focusing on authenticity. And this authenticity connects with HCPs and patients better than any other way, especially when distributed as mobile video, because it frees the viewer to concentrate on the message versus the company producing it.
So let's talk about another aspect of content: humor. One of the great ways of connecting with audiences is through humor, or what we sometimes like to call playful messaging. This isn't laugh out loud funny, but rather something subtler. It's about employing humor to disarm your audience and allow you to raise an uncomfortable but important topic in a way that draws them into the conversation before they have time to shut down their thinking.
People are already going to mobile for humorous videos, so you should play to that strength. Humor breaks down barriers and taboos and allows people to have honest conversations about subjects they're not comfortable discussing in serious ways. One example that comes immediately to mind is a current radio spot that I'm sure you've all heard. Talk to your doctor about your poop. This simple use of humor immediately changes the conversation from something embarrassing and makes it playful and easier to talk about. And it doesn't have to always be humorous wordplay and dialogue. It could just be situational. Everyone remembers the ALS Bucket Challenge. It was humorous to watch, crowdsourced, and it was all shot with cell phones, vertical and not high quality. But through the use of a humorous shared experience, it got people talking about something nobody was talking about at the time. It was a hugely successful campaign. And now that the buzz has dropped, the conversation is being revived by replacing ice with random other liquids, like ketchup, making it even more viral. It doesn't take much to reignite the spark.
Another content consideration that I'd like to talk about is narrative and storytelling. Narrative and storytelling are not unique to mobile. Any video you make, everybody knows if there's a story, people are going to be more engaged. What is unique about mobile is that people now, the bottom line, to be quite honest, is it's really hard to get someone's attention to watch 10 minutes of your content. People just aren't willing to allocate that much time. What you might be able to do is get them to watch 1 or 2 minutes of your content, and then hope that that is engaging enough that they watch the next in what you make of a series. So serializing or breaking out your videos into installments, taking that 10 minutes of content, instead of one 10-minute video, it's 5 2-minute videos. That can really work well. And then what you do is you build the narrative and story through that to pull them along. So you're getting them in at the beginning with a very short video that they're willing to commit their time to, and then you're pulling them along to the next one with a story. A quick example of that are some videos we did for a men's grooming product, where it also incorporates some of the earlier stuff we talked about with authenticity. So instead of doing this with the product makers giving a demo of what is a beard grooming product, we got a real couple who are walking through trying it out for the first time. We have the wife there, she's taking this before picture, and it's very real. They go through using the shampoo, first step of this product. There were 5 steps. And then hopefully you're engaged enough, you go to the next step. Now they're using the conditioner. And not only are you following the steps of the product, but you're following along with their little story. What does the wife think of it? What are the funny things they're saying to one another? So you're adding this character and story element on top of conveying your marketing information. You're doing it in small bites that hopefully pull the person along to watching in the end all 5 steps of this process, whereas if it was just a 10-minute product demo, maybe they don't even start the video at all. So these are ways that you can use storytelling and serialization to get greater engagement and hopefully really get people looking forward to your content instead of just having to constantly try to convince them to watch. And if you can do that, that's a huge step forward.
One of the wonderful and frustrating things about mobile video is that it is constantly changing. One of the new changes that have occurred recently is the explosion of virtual reality content. This includes 360-degree immersive experiences like this short piece we produced to give you an example and point of reference. Companies like Google and Facebook are making huge investments in VR and 360-degree video. And while the tech is still being refined, even now, VR can be experienced on mobile devices. Recently, we produced a series of 360-degree immersive videos for a pharma client to show in their trade show booths, which we sadly cannot show you. The viewers wore headsets, playing the VR clips on smartphones, and headphones in the booth to get the full VR experience. But they're as equally powerful and effective being watched on a tablet or phone directly from YouTube. Why I think VR is something all of you should explore is because of the unique nature of the VR experience. It allows you to see and hear the unique point of view of patients and figuratively walk in their shoes. The videos we produced placed you in the body of a number of different patients who had skin diseases that caused people they interacted with to look at them differently. By putting an HCP into the body of the patient, living their lives and experiencing through their eyes what it's like to be stared at, whispered about, or ignored, is more powerful than any other medium out there. And since VR is so new, the chance of it getting shared is bigger than any other type of mobile video.
While social media sites like Twitter have not historically been known as spaces for mobile video content, that's all changed. Think about how Instagram and Snapchat have added story features which encourage the use of mobile video. These platforms understand the power of mobile video and are giving us the tools to use it. As marketers, we need to embrace that challenge and find creative ways to use more mobile video on social media. Apps are another area that's primed for more mobile video. As we know, a major issue concerning pharma companies and HCPs alike is patient adherence when it comes to taking medications, keeping certain conditions under control, exercising, etc. One approach gaining traction among HCPs is encouraging patients to use mobile apps to help with adherence. In fact, many pharma companies are supporting this push by creating these apps. Mobile video is poised to play an important role in helping with this issue. Think of all the educational and messaging possibilities that open up with being able to incorporate more mobile video within apps.
So, as you can see, mobile video is a medium with a lot of possibilities for everyone in the pharma and healthcare industry, now and into the future. As we wrap up today, we want to leave you with a few final thoughts.
I think we all understand the importance and power of good storytelling. But when it comes to crafting your video content for mobile, it's even more imperative that you, first, find an interesting way to present your story. Whether it's a documentary, animation, or direct address to camera, you need to find the right approach to get your audience to watch. Second, keep your messaging compelling and easy to digest in small bites. Your audience is investing the time to watch. Make it worth it for them. And finally, speak from a place of authenticity, whether that's using patient testimonials or writing original content for your audience. If you can successfully do those three, they will become the biggest advocates of your video content.
Any video made today should be considered a mobile video, because even if you aren't using it on mobile as your primary delivery, it will very likely be repurposed, and that will inevitably lead to it living online and being viewed from a mobile device. So from the start, remember to keep in mind the creative and production considerations that we have discussed. Respect the audience experience so that you can keep them engaged despite all of the distractions. Consider new styles of cinematography for the small screen. Redesign your graphics and text treatments to be readable. Don't assume people are going to be listening to the audio. And always be authentic and have fun.
Obviously, we can talk about this forever, but today should give you an idea of the initial challenges and opportunities you have with mobile. How can you use mobile to communicate internally and externally? How can you leverage the power of social media and media sharing sites to share your messages with a larger global audience and make some of your previously hardest to reach physicians your biggest advocates? And it all starts with thinking mobile first.